It's like, yes, we're making these decisions. We're trying to live by this standard, but I still fail so consistently. Potentially.
Potentially, it's the topos. I get that.
Most likely the topos.
Most likely, it's the topos.
Because, it's like they are a perfect combination of a Hoka and an Ultra.
Okay. In what regard?
Because you have the bigger toe box
Okay.
of the Ultra, but and they feel kind of like the same as Ultras, but you have the heel drop and the a little bit more cushioning of the Hoka.
Okay.
And the durability of the Hoka. Durability of the Hoka.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say durability is kind of a, I don't know.
Those are air quotes for those that couldn't see it.
To each his own. Hey, but we're here. We're in here. We're recording. We're live.
We are here. Dang, we're live?
We are live.
Heck yeah, dude.
Hey, welcome back to the Next in Line podcast, everybody.
Yeah.
How
you doing, brother?
Been doing good, man. It's a good week. Busy week.
Busy weekend.
Yeah. I had a trail run, had run up for a funeral back to Central Texas. A lot of things like that, man.
Did y'all end up making it up there?
I made it up there for visitation on Friday, and then jetted on back because I had to get up about 5 in the morning or so, 4:45, to go make it over to the Frio trail runs this weekend. But all in all, good week. What about y'all, brother?
It's good, man. It was good. It was a big week for me, man. Last year of my 20s.
Ouch.
I know it.
Ouch.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, dang, I'm getting old, but like you can reflect back to stuff that just seems like yesterday, and in reality, it was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and I mean sometimes 15, 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
That's really fair, but even with that being said, like me and you've undergone some changes. Specifically, like your changes you've undergone have been weight loss, getting a little bit more active, kind of grabbing life by the horns with some of the changes you've decided to make. And I feel like I hate the old saying age is just a number kind of thing, but
it really is.
It really is, right?
It's all perspective.
Yeah, because I don't know. I feel much more active, hyper, and just ready to go than I did whenever I was 23.
I feel like a great example of all this are the older folks that we see out there at these ultras. Actually, I mean, dude, there's some like 70-year-olds out there busting out 100 miles. At Habanero, or not Habanero, Brisbane, sorry. Recently,
one and the same apparently. Yeah.
They're all out there the same course now.
Yeah.
But Bobby Nye, I think was his name. I mean, shoot, man, I think he was high 70s, low 80s, maybe something like that. And that's pretty. I mean, he's been running Leadville since like 05. Looking at his ultra sign up,
that's pretty awesome, man. Honestly, like it just further reinforces that point that it's not really how old you are on paper, what that birth certificate says, but it's how you feel, how you take care of yourself, what you do, right?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, just stay moving, all right?
Yeah, so even though you're about to be old, I'm joking. I'm right there behind you.
I know the 3-0 is coming pretty quick, man.
Oh, no, dude, no freaking kidding. But even though we're getting to that point, man, it feels, I don't know, feel just kind of like refilled.
I think the biggest peace of mind is, if seeing Barnes out there doing his thing, if he can do it, then anybody else can.
That's right, that old man.
The old dude out there.
Speaking of Barnes, I want to jump into it. Axis Recovery, guys. I know we talk about them. They are a partner of the podcast. Mention Next in Line over there at Axis Recovery in Conroe, Texas to get 10% off your visit. Cold plunge, sauna, Normatec boots, stretching, and just overall expertise.
And they also have the IV girl come by through and help out folks on that end too, right?
Yeah, she was over there this past week, and I think they scheduled it, but I know that's one of their partners as well that they work with. So at the very least, they can connect you. I'm sure there's something they could do appointment-wise to get that lined out and get you the full treatment there as well.
Yeah, absolutely, folks. And the other thing too, man, I don't know about you, but I love my Normatec boots.
I don't have any yet. I need some.
Oh,
I borrow Dad's
that's
all the
right.
time,
That's
dude.
right. Man.
But tell me about how nice it is having them. Hit me with it.
Maybe it's a little irresponsible, but I bought some with my my HSA, thinking that the HSA was a use it or lose it, when in fact it's the FSA. I may have that backwards, but either way, whenever I was leaving my previous company, I was like, oh, dude, I got to use this money before I lose it. And so I went and bought some Normatec boots, and game changer, man. Yeah. I don't know. Hey, it's just nice on recovery, going through, and it's just relaxing overall. Makes you feel completely different at the end of the session.
Yeah. For those of y'all that don't know what Normatecs are, it is basically a series of blood pressure cuffs along your legs in the form of boots, more or less. It uses air to pump those chambers up, and it squeezes and massages the muscles on a cycle, but it also takes all of that lactic acid and crap that's in your muscles and saturated in there and squeezes it and moves it into your body. So it's very beneficial for getting over soreness, for recovery from runs. I honestly wish I had a set coming off of the race I ran this weekend, but hey, we are good to go. We're recovering actually pretty well, so it's been a good run.
Yeah, absolutely. So diving into it a little bit, man. How was that race for you this weekend?
Man, it was everything I could have hoped it was going to be,
What was your mindset going into it?
Mindset going into it was, I live in a neighborhood where I run a 10-mile loop and get 150 foot of elevation.
Same.
Yep. Hey, you're my neighbor. Dude, it's so irritating. We live down here in South Texas, and it's just flat, right? And it's okay. Yep. Whatever. Because we're close to the hill country, we can go find some elevation, which is exactly what the point of this weekend was for me. I got to train for Cocodona. There's 40,000 foot of elevation change over the 250-mile course. So I was looking for something that was going to challenge me a little bit. And the course was more or less kind of rolling hills or flat for the most part until you get to this mountain at mile 3.4. And then you go straight up for about a third to half of a mile, to the point of people crawling on their hands and knees up to the top of this thing. Yeah, and it didn't seem like a whole lot. It was 3,500 foot or 3,600 foot of elevation change over the course of 33 miles. But whenever you really get into that and you're doing a 6.6 mile loop, so you're hitting that hill 5 times.
Yeah.
Kind of gets into a little bit of mindset stuff and tricks and what you think about how you approach that hill. So it really was. I mean, coming around the 4th and the 5th time, it was a challenge getting up it, but it was something I was able to attack from a point of gratitude rather than a point of obligation. And what I mean by that is I changed the way I look at it by saying, I don't have to go up this hill 5 times. I came out here for training, because I don't get this opportunity ever. So I get to go up this hill 5 times. And it might be crazy to think like that.
Oh, I mean, that's a pretty powerful thing in and of itself. I feel like so often, you're out there in these races that you sign up for. You're out there in a competition, or you're going through the daily grind of your workout or whatever. But like, that's literally the purpose behind what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's easy to lose sight of that in that moment, just because, like, dude, grinding up this hill once again, and it freaking sucks.
Yeah.
But that's the opportunity that lies right in front of you. So that's a pretty powerful thing.
Yeah, and that was probably the biggest takeaway for me, right? Changing that perspective and saying, okay, like I need this, and it is put in front of me as a test of something that is going to make me better through hardship and through pain, and learning to enjoy that and be thankful for it. So,
yeah. Let me ask you this, though. Just because, I know how you are with races and training races.
What you mean?
What was the struggle like in keeping in mind that it was a training run for you, not necessarily getting out there and just hammering down and trying to be first? I mean, you did come in third overall.
I did come in third.
Was that a battle for you, or were you able to kind of power through that a little bit more maturely this go around? Because for those that don't recall
context,
there was a marathon that you signed up for,
Bridgeland
a year and a half ago now or so?
Yeah, right before Habanero.
That was supposed to be a training run, man.
It was.
And you got out there, hammered down on that trail, and ended up running yourself ragged, but you won the race. That wasn't the intention behind it. So what is that shift looking like for you? Or what does that shift looking like for you, now compared to then?
Yeah, so Lane laid the context pretty well, but I am the most competitive person in the world. Not to an unhealthy point where I'm going to do something immoral to win, right? But I'm going to give everything I got because I'm on this world to compete and to give the best example of what it can be, right? I mean, and I'm going to try to inspire people with the efforts I put out, and that's what I feel like I do whenever I get into these spots. But was a little bit humbled out there, honestly, straight up, just directly honest with you. Got out there. I got third. It's a small, intimate event put on by Texas Outlaw Running Company. It was a great organized race. It was awesome. But it was a small event. There was only about 11 runners in the 50K category. So whenever I got third, it's not anything too crazy. But with that being said, I thought I was going to show up and have an opportunity to win this thing and really push through. And, man, I could tell you I was wrong. There were two individuals that showed up out there to run this race that meant business. The girl that won this thing holds the FKT for Guadalupe Peak, fastest known time.
Really?
She is fast.
Yeah.
She is also a very good runner on hills and mountains.
Okay.
I thought that might slow her down a little bit because she left us. We were running in like the 8:20, 8:30 pace starting off on this race, and she left us behind.
Really?
Yeah, she was moving. So,
I mean, dude, an 8-minute pace on trails is moving regardless.
It is.
And so for y'all to be dusted, I mean,
correct. Yeah, no, exactly. So honestly, that little bit of humbling made life a little bit easier because I was like, I really don't have a chance at winning this thing, so I'm just going to go out and run my race.
I guess it probably kind of took that weight off the back, like right off the back, I guess.
It did, because the other side of this too is like in ultra running, there's not a ton of opportunities for a mediocre runner, and I call myself a very mediocre runner, to win races, right? There's usually some stud out there that's going to come in and just knock it down, right? And I love getting opportunities to do that because it's a chance for me to get some exposure and have to live in the light as somebody that takes first place, which is still being encouraging to others, viewing things from that point of view like, okay, I showed up and my hard work paid off. I was able to put in the work and do what I needed to do to be successful. And there's a lot of humility that you're able to practice whenever you're able to win one of these events. And that's why I enjoy it. And that's one of the big reasons I go out hard whenever I have the chance to win one of these. And that wasn't the case this time around. I still ran a strong race, ran a little bit harder than I probably should have out there. I was still putting down 8:15 to 8:20 mile pace, and even a little bit lower than that on the downhills on the last lap of the race with 30 miles already completed. So probably hammered a little bit more than I needed to, but man, got to go out there and experience something I didn't get to experience a lot, which is elevation. Got to meet some cool people and get involved with some folks that are honestly really good folks, make some connections, and learn about some trails that could really serve me as I get into trying to prep for Cocodona. I was told about some trails on the west side, the power lines over in San Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
I was told it's about 5 miles and 14 to 1,500 foot of elevation gain over those 5 miles.
Really?
Yeah, so that's enticing.
Yeah.
Really needed that.
I say, I mean, with us over here in minimal elevation, that may not be a bad option for us.
Flatlanders, boy.
Yeah. But, I mean, I laugh because it's all relative, right? Because, back whenever we were in Houston, that's some flatland over there, dude.
Oh, man, yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm smoking it out here in these neighborhoods on these streets, getting out there running. And then, we moved over here. It's like, hot dang, we finally got a couple hills.
Yeah.
But, I mean, hills, right?
It's still not.
And it's not really a hill, but I mean, it's better than nothing. But I know that it just kind of fails in comparison to a lot of other stuff out there. So
it does, and
that's good enough.
Yeah, this one was technical, had some loose rock and some craggly rock. So not only did I get to go out there and push myself in that regard, I got to gear test. I got to test out some trekking poles, got to test out the quiver that they're stored in, accessing those, getting them in and out, testing nutrition, and a few other just like key pieces of gear that are important to understand and know their limits. Like shoes, honestly, are huge. When we were talking about shoes at the beginning of this podcast, but
were you running your goats again?
Yeah, I was running Speed Goat 5s. Honestly, dude, I think they're going to be my go-to. I think I'm going to ride in them. I know I haven't tried anything else, but I don't want to because, knock on wood, I don't get blisters. I don't end up with foot issues right now in the capacity I'm running. Yeah. So with the sock and shoe combination I'm doing, I'm happy. I'm golden. I'm going to stay where I'm at.
I mean, it's hard to beat too, man. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. You know, I'm never the biggest fan of the saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it, because you can always go through and improve in all areas, right?
For sure.
But whenever it comes to gear and stuff like that, I mean, if it's working for you, why change something like that? At least, I guess.
And that's where I'm living, man. Yeah. Honestly, that's where I'm at.
And I think, going back to the whole, whenever you do go through and win something, you have that big opportunity to kind of practice, humbleness and everything else. But I think that this was probably a solid opportunity for you to kind of go through and capitalize on that in this past race that you recently had too. I think it's whenever you are subjected to like the same individuals, the same training plan and everything else, it's like, in this specific area, I am able to continue to compete at that higher level. I am a top performer within those that I surround myself with currently. But whenever you subject yourself to those that are that next step, then it's like, oh, here we go again. This is how much more I need to improve on. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
So that's it's always awesome getting to get out there and be exposed to stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And it's inspiring a little bit because, I mean, I say I got blown out by these individuals. And over the course of a long race like this, I probably dropped back 30 to 45 minutes behind them, which is...
Was first in place close to each other?
I think first and second were pretty close to each other.
Yeah, first and second, yeah. Do you know, were they from the area? Or
one of them's local to San Antonio-ish. I think the other guy is too, but I didn't catch him as far as like where he's from and all his info.
Gotcha.
I was able to talk with another runner that knew the girl that won, and that's how I found out a little bit more about who she was and what she'd done.
The reason I ask is, I'm trying to see if us Flatlanders have a chance.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it is. There's ways for us to create some of this training, and I think that's one of the things that's proven and going to be proven over this Cocodona 250 prep is that if I go out there and I really commit to the hills and don't let myself back out of this, and take the easy way out and just run this flats, I think it could be pretty beneficial once we get into this thing.
Yeah.
Learned that it might be a good idea to implement some of the weight training that I'd let go to strengthen hamstrings a little bit and quads too.
That's something I was talking to my coach about as well, and it's something that I actually heard first through, I don't recall if it was a Nick Barrett podcast or one of his YouTube videos I was watching, but I think it was the one that he did with Cam Haynes actually on the lift, run, shoot that they did. He was talking about, he goes through, he lifts heavy throughout the week, especially his legs, because whenever he was over in the Austin area, I mean, there's a little bit of elevation that you can hit out there, but nothing like up in Oregon or Colorado or anything like that.
Yeah, even Tennessee, where he's at now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to supplement that, he was still lifting legs heavy, like deep squats, heavy squats, and just being super focused on that area as well. And whenever I was talking to my coach about it, he's like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the best thing to supplement whenever you don't have anything. So
that's fair. Well,
So what I'm saying is,
I got to start lifting legs.
Hey, man, leg day with me. Come on.
I will. Absolutely. Let's do it. Sign me up. Y'all hear it there. Hold me accountable. I hate lifting legs, honestly.
There's no better day than leg day.
I like leg day as a leg day, but I don't like mixing leg day into a running schedule to where it fries my legs somewhere in there, which probably is what I need.
Well, and I had a little bit of that this weekend myself. I was super conscientious of that whenever this past Thursday, whenever I lifted legs. I was like, I need to make sure that I'm not just going through and lifting like, moderate weight to just kind of keep, the muscle that I do have, but, to continue trying progressing like I was before. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I absolutely fried my legs. And then Friday was my off day, and then Saturdays I have my long runs. And dude, first 3-4 miles of my run is like, gotta get these legs moving because I'm still sore, trying to break them loose a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But by mile 6, I was like, all right, my legs are loose for sure, but now I can't go any faster because, man, you know, with where I'm at, my training is like mile 6, like I'm already like kind of into it, right?
Yeah.
And my speed wasn't there at that point.
That's fair. That's fair.
And I was like, okay, well, I mean, here's the struggle, but here's the opportunity to continue improving. You know what I mean?
That's completely fair. Yeah.
So it's I don't know, it's awesome. I enjoy the process. So
That's cool. How far do you end up running this weekend?
I had a 10-miler.
You hit double digits this
I
weekend,
hit double,
big dude.
yeah, man, I did.
Ooh, okay.
And you know, we knocked out that 9-miler last weekend. We're at 10:15 pace. I was supposed to be at 10:15 this past weekend or yesterday, and you know, I was a little bit slower, and you know, came in at about 10:39, 10:40, somewhere around there, average.
In the neighborhood ish.
You know, I find it crazy how it's like in one end, it's like 15 seconds, like it's 15 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the running world, 15 seconds is like that compounds over mileage.
Oh, yeah.
And that ends up being a pretty big distance that you have to cover. So it's kind of crazy. I did finish out, I think my last mile, mile 10, I came in at like a 9:59 or something like that. So I was able to bust it a little bit loose on that back end. But yeah, man, I mean, it's all been a learning process for me, and I'm enjoying it. So it's been solid.
Man, that's exciting. It's exciting. I love seeing you back in the running world. It's pretty fun.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking, probably, I know we need to move on out of the running category, but one last thing. We did get a chance to talk to, or I got a chance to talk to Michael Ruiz today, my cousin.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
How's he feeling?
Man, he's feeling a lot better. He's got a slight limp still, dealing with that torn calf, but, man, he's ready to unpack that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, dude.
He's ready to get on here and talk, and y'all get to hear the awesome story of him knocking out I want to call it freaking Habanero 100 now.
It's hard, man.
The Brazos Bend 100 at 7 IL Ranch this year. It's honestly, it's going to be one of the coolest stories I tell. It hit me just like my dad's race at Rocky Raccoon hit me with seeing just overcoming so much adversity and getting into it. But we'll get to dive into that in the next couple of weeks. Y'all should expect that interview and that conversation. So be looking for that, and we're super stoked about it. So.
Heck yeah, dude. I'm looking forward to getting to hear his side of things while it's still fresh in his mind. You know, I know that it takes some time to go through and process all of those things, but yeah, man, I think it's about time to get that story and just kind of learn all the things that he took away from it. So
yeah, and we'll be using some of that film probably to also finish out the documentary that we want to throw out on YouTube with some of his stuff as well.
Heck
so,
yeah.
Pretty stoked about it, man.
I know you said last thing, but we do have one more.
Oh,
and
yeah, Running World, one more.
Yeah. Dude, I'm pretty stoked. We signed up for the 3 of 7 race out in Georgia.
Yeah, we got another race. You thought we were taking some time off.
We ain't got time for that.
No. Man, I ran the 3 of 7 Project 50K a couple years ago whenever they had their first race.
Yeah.
And we've been huge fans of what they do and the message they're putting out and the guys that they are.
Dude, I mean, I can't overstate or understate whatever that term is, but like the impact that they have had on me individually, I know that they've had on you, has just been so amazing. And getting that opportunity to go out there and see what that's all about in person is going to be pretty awesome.
Man, Chad Wright piqued my interest into ultra running, and then his race was really the only reason I even started. So
yeah,
if it wasn't for those guys, I might have found it one day, but man, it wouldn't be where it's at right now. So and along with that, everything that develops from that. Right.
Yeah, and it's been pretty cool, you know, getting to kind of be a part of their development in a way, you know, from the listener side.
Oh, for sure.
Because you started listening to them back in 2020.
I think so.
Maybe 2019-ish, somewhere around there. I think 2020.
I think it was 2020.
And I started listening to them, I think, end of 2020, whenever you're going through 75 hard and you brought it to my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just the amount of growth that they've had over the past few years, it's been pretty awesome to see, too.
So. Oh, absolutely. Man, something you hope you can grab onto and take on, too, man.
Yeah.
Want to share in that. And what an example they've left for people like us that want to try to help others.
What a standard.
Oh, unlike any other standard, man. Honestly, it's beautiful. It's really cool to see. And I guess back to the. So we're going to run their race. They have a trail run that they're having out in Georgia on the 10th. We decided to be brave souls and hop in the truck on February 8th, along with Mr. Billy Pitts, my father.
We're going to drive that sucker, man.
We're going to drive it. We're going to hop in the expedition, and we're going to roll out.
15-hour drive?
15-hour drive.
Yep.
Northwest Georgia to Rome out there.
Heck yeah.
Then we'll get there sometime Friday, stay the night, and then get up and run some races. I think you and Dad are doing the 4-hour.
Yeah, I'm doing the 4-hour. Is that what your dad decided?
I think Dad signed up for the 4-hour as well.
Cool, yeah.
So y'all be in heated competition out there for that one.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Going to be both out there hobbling up that hill, man.
Man, the elevation out there is apparently no joke. We did some scouting on the maps and terrain, and it looks pretty intense. But I'll be doing the 8-hour as well, so it's going to, yeah. Just want to get as much exposure to that and that opportunity as I can, man.
I'm really looking forward to it as well. Just from, I haven't been on the runner side per se because I've always been a pacer. You know what I mean? We knocked out my Spartan Ultra, which is an ultra, right? But it's completely different side of the traditional races that you look at.
For sure.
But getting to be on this side of it, I'm pretty excited to go through and kind of see where I lay and see what everything else is looking like, man. So this should be pretty solid.
No, absolutely. I agree with you, man. It's one of those things that it was a really good opportunity. It was a really good lesson. It taught us a lot. It was a lot of grinding, but it was broken apart just a little bit differently than the beating your head against a rock for 6-7 hours straight up over and over.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for you because I know how much running means to you and how excited you are for this. And potentially some news to drop about some races Lane might be doing upcoming later on, but I'll leave it alone. He doesn't want to put it out there in the world yet, and he's probably going to talk crap to me about bringing it up anyway. But regardless.
Either way, man, it'll be quite the experience. It's quite the opportunity that we have, and it's something that I don't take lightly, so. Yeah,
and going out to this race, there's going to be a lot of good fellowship too. There's going to be a lot of good opportunity. There's going to be a lot of room to dig deeper into that pain cave and overcome some things that we're not used to. So I'm stoked about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just the fellowship of going out there with you and my dad and being surrounded by good people.
Yeah, man. I mean, that road trip, I'm sure we're going to have some pretty in-depth conversations that we're going to get to unpack. So
yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll do some recording in the car or something.
Hey. That may be something to definitely consider.
Let's look at it. But
folks, one other thing that's pretty surprising, these dang Chile results, I was blown away by that. I think, dude,
you haven't even told me.
I didn't realize how many folks are on the wrong side of the fence. That's all I'm saying.
Perspective is a heck of a thing, ain't
it? So let's break it down real quick.
Let's take a look. A gander, if you will. Lane posted this right after the last podcast. Now, mind you, the poll of do beans belong in Chile?
Yeah, so of everybody that responded to the poll, 53% said yes.
53%.
Blew my mind.
And 47 said.
And the other side was 27% said no.
Okay.
And the remaining 20, no preference.
Really?
Dude.
So it was a dominant performance by Beans in Chile is what we're getting at.
I think there's a lot of folks that, unfortunately they just weren't subjected to the right things growing up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Right. Sure. Yeah. You're right. If yeah, whatever.
No, I don't know.
We were right is what I'm saying. We were right. Beans in Chile. Even if you cook them on the side first and throw them in.
Billy. Calling you out again, man.
That's right. We did we actually had people messaging us and telling us about it and being decently opinionated about it. So I'm here for it.
I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things like you can make assumptions out of anything really. And that was just a highlighting fact that was just like, wow, I'm ignorant to some things out there, I guess.
Yeah,
which isn't surprising either, but
I understand.
I guess really at the end of the day, it just kind of made me take a step back. It's like, wow, okay, I'm not in the majority like I thought I was.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
hey, I don't mind being the underdog.
That's okay. No, I'll give it to you, man. I do enjoy a little bit of chili without beans sometimes, but if you're making chili and it is going to be real chili, I want to see beans in there. And it seems like y'all agree with us, so thank y'all for that. We'll share in that victory together. Maybe have a potluck one of these days, make some beans and chili, and
I'll bring the cornbread at least.
yeah, we'll let you stay on that side, but you keep your hands off of our chili there, brother. Oh. Well, good. I'm glad we were able to get that out in the open and air it out, man. That's an important topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's dive into it, man. Last time we were kind of going through Matthew chapter 4 and 5 a little bit, and we were going over the beatitudes, and that's something that I'm still pondering pretty heavily in my mind, right? So we're looking at the beatitudes again real quick. And for me, it's just something that's kind of been sticking out in my mind. It's like, right, that first verse, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And is it, are they poor in spirit just from how much they've given, right? And it makes me reflect on how little realistically I probably do give. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
And it just going through the beatitudes, going through the rest of chapter 5, talking about the salts and the light, the fulfillment of the law, murder, adultery, divorce, oaths, these eye for an eye, just a few of those bigger topics. I mean, not a few of the bigger topics, but the topics in general. Just some things that became super apparent to me, going through this. And something that we were kind of reflecting back on our run last time was like, one, all of my shortcomings have just truly become apparent in my mind, right? Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, it's just how backwards society is right now, just as a whole.
You want to explain that a little bit?
Just how backwards it is, or the reflection of myself?
How I think the one that grabbed me right there, obviously, your reflection is very important. I got something to think about on that first verse you mentioned. But
yeah,
what do you mean by society's backwards? Do you have any examples of that?
Dude, I mean, let's just kind of, looking at the different topics that we have right here, adultery. If you hop on Instagram, you hop on any social media, I mean, just the stark difference from the standard that's set in the Bible and Scripture for us compared to what is consistently thrown at us on a daily basis, right? You go on there, there's women, all over Instagram that are, I don't know if it's self-promoting or whatever it may be, but it's there's temptation there, right?
The over sexualization of everything.
Absolutely. And how normal that has become, right?
That's fair.
And you go through, you talk about divorce, in here, and it says, the only exception for divorce would be sexual immorality. But outside of that, how many failed relationships can we see or do we see out there on a daily basis? And how common it is now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not only there, it goes into the oaths and, being eye for an eye, and, you do something to me, I should reflect, or I should respond back in the same manner, right? But in Scripture, it tells us he hits you on the right cheek, show him your left cheek, give him that side too.
Well, we hear all the time, like, I'm going to match the energy given to me is the kind of the common thing nowadays, but that's not it.
Yeah. And, it's just for me, it's just a mixture of things, man. It's just, the further I dive into this, there's some things that I do struggle with, absolutely, just as we all do, right?
Yep.
But it's how apparent my shortcomings are on so many different things. But it's not just me, and, I have no room for judgment against either or others. Because I just have so many different things that, I need to continue progressing on. But whenever our entire society as a whole is literally the exact opposite of the standards that are set for us, it's like, man, there's two different ways you can look at it. What an opportunity for us to truly strive and live towards these standards.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's folks out there that may be like, dude, this is how it is.
Okay, fair enough.
Why should I change?
Yeah, that was the point.
What is the purpose? Absolutely. And, it's just making sure that, I don't know, it's just self-checking your perspective, I guess. And just something that's been really hitting on me this past week. Sorry, that's a lot to unpack.
No, that's an awesome thing. I think you're right on the head of it, and I think that's what's so enticing about what we're doing here, and why I think it's so important is because I was there. In a lot of ways, I'm still there, right? Like, I still have that self-reflection. I still get exposed to a lot of those things. The temptation lives in front of us all the time, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be the sexualization on social media. It can be the temptation to not do the things we're supposed to do and to be less than we're supposed to be, to compromise.
Well,
right?
And the bigger thing, too, is like, dude, it's not even just social media. Like, the music you listen to. Like,
I've noticed that one.
Something that hit me so hard is, I go through and I listen to some pretty upbeat, hardcore, like OG thug and rap in the gym, right?
Same.
And if it ain't that, then it's some hardcore metal.
Uh-huh.
And whenever you stop to, you're not listening to the beat or the rhythm of the song or, the guitar screaming in the background or whatever it may be, but whenever you stop to listen to the lyrics,
mm-hmm.
there's some heinous, filthy stuff that is said in those songs.
Yeah, and it's no beating around the bush either. It's
no, dude, it is like straight in your face, no ifs, ands, or buts. And I mean, like something simple as like lyrics on a song, it's like, dang, I really like this song. But then you start to stop and listen. It's like, why am I subjecting myself to this ideology or this thought of whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
But then you still make the decision to listen to the dang song anyways. It's like, why?
And it's funny.
Why?
It's funny you say that because I've actually, like, I got Spotify and it creates custom playlists for me and everything like that, like daily playlist number 1 or 2 or 3, whatever. And I've been sifting through and removing a lot of stuff that doesn't align with what I want to do or the person I need to become, right?
Yeah.
The path we're trying to walk right now, because I've realized that as well. I've also tried to limit time on social media to only being on. I've got 2 separate accounts right now, the Next in Line account and the Chance Pitts account, right? I try to limit my time on the Chance Pitts account because there is way more just crap.
Just out there, yeah.
Yeah, it's just right in your face. And the Next in Line, I follow not ordinary people, but I follow people that uphold the values and principles that we try to live with, right? So that's a direct reflection, and it creates that environment. And you're exactly right, man. It just society grabs onto all of that, and it's a vicious cycle of repeating, because whenever you get a little bit more of that and you get exposure to it, like it pulls these worldly things inside of you. That's like, okay, yeah, that's where we're at. That's where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Feed me, give me more, and man, I've been that way for so long, and it's been a really refreshing change of pace to get away from that in a lot of regards too. But I see it.
I think, the struggle for me, it's like, yes, we're making these decisions. We're trying to live by this standard, but I still fail so consistently.
Correct.
And it's like, why? Like, what is the root cause of that failure? Is it just like being uncomfortable? Is it the lack of discipline? Is it, we're striving for perfectionism in some regard, right? Mm-hmm. And is it the lack of being able to do that? But it's like, at the end of the day, what is it that allows that decision in myself to be like, it's just a song. Like, why can't I listen to it? I'm not really listening to the words anyway. the beat of the song gets me going in the gym. You know, it keeps me hitting those reps and whatever else is like. But why?
Yeah.
Why do I continuously miss that mark? And that's something that was very apparent and made me kind of irritated with myself in the gym this morning before recording this. You know, I was listening to a song and it's just like, what is the reason for me allowing myself to continue to make exceptions with certain things?
Yeah.
Like, why? And it's a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
You know, I know that you don't have that answer for me. I don't have that answer for myself.
No, I've just got examples of them popping in
But
my head.
it's just like, dude, like, what the crap is wrong with me, man?
Right?
Like, and, you know, I think, you know, some of it is now that, you know, I've been going through and praying, you know, like, Lord, just show me, you know, where I truly stand, and just having, you know, all those shortcomings, like, just truly, like, just in my head and so apparent. And, you know, I think, you know, obviously the first step, people joke about it, like the first step of recovery or whatever it may be is like realizing you have a problem.
Yeah.
Or realizing you're short, like where you fall short consistently. And that's where we're able to start moving forward and making progress. But dude, it's just like, like, am I just that ignorant to how I am myself? And, you know, I can easily turn an eye to it and be like, dude, I mean, you've made progress here, here, and here. You're not a bad person.
Slipping up's okay.
But once you allow that exception, then it's like, then what's the point of it all? If you're gonna make that exception, you know, you're not gonna make any progress, and that's so relevant in all of our training that we do. You know, shoot, let me snooze that alarm. I'm gonna sleep in a little bit, and the other, you know, I pride myself in that. Typically, I'm able to get up first alarm 4 a.m. every morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other morning, it was my off day per se, so it was Friday, and my alarm went off at 4. I hit that snooze, and I was like, man, I'll just do my stretching this evening. I'll be a little bit less disciplined. I made the justification that sleep is great for recovery, which it absolutely is. But that was my justification to myself at 4 a.m. I lay back down in bed, and my wife is like, what are you doing? Go get out of bed. Go do your stretches. And I was like, and I laid there. I laughed to myself. I laid until like 4:05. I was like, this is a prime example of all the other exceptions that, you know, we do have temptation with on a daily basis and literally everything else we do.
Yeah.
And it's the little things that make that difference, man. And, you know, I just laughed to myself. I rolled out of bed, went out there, did my yoga or my stretching, whatever you want to call it, in the morning. And I went ahead, you know, and just went throughout the rest of my day. But it's whenever you're able to reflect on like those small instances, like, dang, like, here it is again. Though I've made so much progress, though I've have a lot more discipline than I used to be, I'm still so far from where I should be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm seeing it there, then, you know, I'm looking at the reflection of everything else that we're doing with this and trying to live a more faithful and godly life, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's like, even with this, it's like, well, shoot, man, instead of going through and, you know, I get home from work and instead of, you know, relaxing on the couch for the 20 minutes that I do, like, that's 20 minutes extra that I could be in the scripture. You know what I mean? But it's like I consistently still make that decision to not do that for whatever reason. And so it's just something I've been struggling with this past week.
No, I thank you for sharing that, because that's real and raw. And I mean, how many people are listening to this that go through the same thing? I'm sitting in a chair across the room from you, and I am going through a lot of the same exact things. And you bring up the question of why several times there. That was something you said.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to be like, why? Further than that, why keep doing this? Why do I keep fighting a battle that's obviously a losing one? And I think the value that is placed in reading scripture and reviewing some of these stories. You said that you were reading Genesis, and I actually went back and started reading Genesis, and man, it's just like it is littered with examples of this, right? And first and foremost, I think that like we got to circle back and understand that all of our shortcomings, all of our sins, all of our examples of being less than what we're supposed to be in a relationship and in the eyes of God was paid for by Jesus on the cross, because we knew that we had a constant debt that was so big and so
insurmountable.
That's a perfect word. Thank you. That you and I cannot do what we're supposed to do all the time. It is humanly, worldly impossible for us to be 100%. And then we see examples of that. I said I had a few examples come to mind, but just diving into it from the very beginning of time, the first man and first woman in the Garden of Eden, what did they do out of the gate with the perfect life and the perfect opportunity? They gave in to temptation. They were tempted.
Yeah, they fell short.
They fell short. You start looking at other individuals. You start looking at Lot whenever God's about to destroy the cities and of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the temptation to stay there. You look at his wife as she turned into a pillar of salt because she had the temptation to look back one more time, right? Yeah. It's there. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Humans, prime example. It's so worldly, and it's us, and I think, not to get just super preachy on you here, but I mean I'm preaching to myself as well. Is that, man?
I am too. Yeah.
Living this life, I'm so competitive. We talked about the running earlier. I'm so competitive. I'm so eager to get everything right that, like, man, I can't forgive myself ever whenever I do something wrong, and whenever I fall short in this journey we're walking in, and it's the temptation. It's the end of the world for me, dude.
Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
No, and just to wrap that up, I mean, I got to understand that there's so many examples in the Bible of humans being fallible, humans being just able to be exposed to sin and to be tempted. And there's only one example of the perfect human being, or I guess 3 times within that one example of the perfect human being not giving into that temptation, even though there was all of the temptation, all the needs were there, and I'm sure there was a tug, but stood strong, steadfast, and didn't. And that's an example of Jesus after 40 days in the wilderness.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I guess something I just made a connection to, it's those opportunities directly that, we have that opportunity to really lay into our faith and Jesus in those moments. I think another reason why, or maybe it gave me some understanding more so of myself. So at work the other day, we took a DISC assessment. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I do.
It's going through and talking about your personality and the higher, what categories you're higher in. And so for those that don't know, you have 4 categories. You have D's, I's, S's, and C's. But within those, obviously there's a lot of variation between individuals because we're not all the same, right? However, depending on the ranges that you're in, they kind of give you like titles for how you are. And so like one that my manager and all of my coworkers kind of categorize me in is a self-achiever, right? So going through, I'm a huge people person. I'm a huge I'm a goal-driven individual, right? I have all these things I have set forth. I go through and I try and knock them out best I can. And it's those goals and the people that really drive me to do that. However, even right before I got my results, my manager, he was going through showing me like, hey, like in all of my history of going through and studying all this and subjecting myself to it and kind of, getting monthly coaching even on how to read people and kind of place them that way we know how to best, build our team and how to work through a bunch of different scenarios and realize our strengths and weaknesses, right? This is where I think you are. And we went through it, and I was like, dude, hit the nail on the head. This is who I am. I am a self-achiever, right? Got my results back. Perfectionist. And I was even like, I was like, dude, there's no way that this is who I am. Like, yes, I have perfectionist tendencies with my work because I set myself in the standards to a certain point. Where it's like, dude, if you're going to do it, you got to do it the right way. But like, you know, in that moment, I was like, no, like, I'm not a perfectionist. I just go through, make sure all my I's are dotted, my T's are crossed, right? And it bugged me to the fact that I came home, I told Kendall about it. I bought another test, took it again, and guess what? Perfectionist.
If that's not the like definition of perfectionist as well, though, because it wasn't perfectly aligned with how you thought it. Regardless, that's not my place to analyze. But right,
you are absolutely correct.
Oh man.
And you know, having that self-realization of like, this is where you think you are, but this is where you actually are. And just like reflecting on that itself and just everything else I do. And, you know, I even justified it to myself as like, okay, I am a perfectionist, but it's through being perfect, I'm able to go out and achieve these things. And it's just, I don't know, man, it's kind of like a backwards way of thinking. And it just really, shed light onto how I am with so much more than I realized. And, I don't know, man. It's a lot.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that perfectionist side of you is part of the reason why it hits you so hard and bothers you so much whenever, like the things we're talking about now, and whether it's music, whether it's temptation, whether it's something, whenever you feel like you fall short?
I mean,
is that why
absolutely.
it hits you so hard?
Absolutely, because then it just shows like all the shortcomings I do have. Like I'm self-realizing all the areas that I am failing in. But the beautiful thing of it all is that those are all the opportunities that I have to really lay into my faith, to really grow this relationship with God and you and my family and everything else, man. It's just, I don't know. It's something that hit me pretty hard. And, you know, I think you're 100% right. So
I agree. I think I share some of the same qualities, maybe not to the extent of perfectionism, like with what you're struggling with a little bit. But man, I think there's a lot of people that do, because how many people, we talked about New Year's resolutions, how many people start something and then the results that they expect aren't
there
perfect,
or
aren't the thing that they expected it to be, and then you get turned off and you start overanalyzing, you start tearing yourself apart with all the things that I didn't follow my diet here, I didn't work out here, I didn't do this or that, I didn't get that assignment done, that's why I'm not going to get promoted, and whatever area.
Being your biggest critic.
Yeah, I wasn't disciplined enough on my budget, and I spent money here, so now I'll never be able to buy a house or whatever it is, and you lose the dream, you lose the bigger goal. But I guess what I'm getting at is the constant pursuit of perfection is not wholly an unhealthy thing. You got to understand that, and this is what double-edged sword. We got to understand we'll never be able to achieve it, but
absolutely
that can't stop you from progress.
And it's 100% not. But I think just being able to take a step back and seeing who I am now, really is aiding me in that pursuit, I guess.
Agreed.
Does that make sense?
No, I think that's beautiful, and I know what kind of person you are and the discipline you have, so I can definitely see that in you. And if you're, you got something?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you're somebody out there that's struggling with this, like both of us clearly are, and you've had this goal in front of you or something you're trying to work towards, whether it's a relationship with God and understanding this side of things, or or weight loss or finances or whatever it is. Guys, there's so many different areas. Like I would encourage you to take away what he just took away from that, and what he just laid out for me, and what I was able to take away is man, a lot of days it's going to feel like it's not happening, right? Or you're going to beat yourself into the ground, or overanalyze everything to the point. But I mean, man, progress over the perfection, but working towards getting as close as you can to that perfection is just the goal. There's going to be bad days. There's going to be things that you fall short on. And like you just said, and like you're going to continue to do it, it doesn't stop you from the progress
or the process.
Yeah. And I would.
And at the end of the day, it's compounding interest.
Yeah.
It's a consistency. It's a discipline. Just going through, knowing that you're not going to meet that, but realizing, dude, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to do my dang best in everything I do every single day. And though I may not be seeing that progress right now, I may not see it 2 years from now, but having faith that eventually you will is what that process actually looks like. And it's not the finish line, folks. It's the process itself.
Absolutely. And well, I'd also challenge you with that too. Like in your progress and your self-criticism, you're probably putting standards upon yourself that are what you assume the opinions of other people to be. Like I failed on my diet, but rather than being like, okay, I can restart this and go, you're probably sitting there thinking like, I told all these people I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna start eating healthy, and here I am with a donut in my hand, kind of thing, you know. but you start putting all this other weight and all these conditions upon yourself and all these opinions that, one, aren't even true, but two, they don't matter in ways, right? What really matters is a relationship between you and God, and the decisions you make for yourself, and that you're constantly chipping away and making progress for the better with the right heart, right? And with the right motives behind it, and the slip ups and the falls and all those things are gonna be there, but getting up and continuing and moving on are just the elements that make it.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only option you have.
Yeah.
Or it's the only option you should take, at least. And
I
don't want it to come across like, I hope that didn't come across as negative, I guess.
No.
You know, it's not negative. I'm not in a dark place or anything like that. But it's just like having that self-realization of like who I am, and thus giving me the perspective I needed to realize all the opportunities that lay in front of me.
You said it best earlier. The first step in solving a problem is realizing it exists.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful example of what you just did.
Yeah. So.
No, that was good. And
I don't know, brother. I mean, just going through chapter 5 and chapter 6, I mean, it's just like, dude, these are the standards that are set for us.
Yeah.
And boy, are we so far away from it.
Yeah. And oh, what a mountain to climb to try to get even close.
But hey, we're going to try and do it every single day.
Yeah.
So.
I do want to circle back one more time. I know we talked about getting to 5 and 6 today, but dude, let's just live in 5. I think there's a lot of good things we talked about, and you brought up something, that first verse of 5. The first this is verse 3, the first line of the Beatitudes. God blesses those who are poor in spirit and realize their need for Him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Man, I think one way we can look really, really hard at that is the faith associated with that. I think it ties into what you talked about really, really well, because poor in spirit means that something didn't go right? Somebody's having a hard time, whether it's any of the things we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't been able to achieve our goals. We're financially struggling and in a bad spot, or maybe we've lost a loved one and we're questioning everything we've known about the righteousness and fairness of God, or we found ourselves slipping, or we picked up an injury from running. Maybe we tore a calf muscle. or something, right?
Yeah.
And whatever it is, you're poor in spirit because of some worldly means. But those here that realize their need for him still show that unchanging and just constant and steady faith,
Just unwavering.
right?
Yeah.
Unwavering faith.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. And those that are poor in spirit and still find the strength, because that's what it really takes and what it is, they find that strength and ability to say, okay, the pieces are broken, they're laying around me. Things are spread out, things are not doing what I think they're supposed to do or what I hoped they would do. And I have no other option but to be faithful and understand that God is going to take care of my needs. He's going to help heal this broken heart. He's going to help heal this calf muscle. He's going to help me get to the point of financial investment or stability that I need to be in, or help me with that job or whatever it is. But having that faith and that blind faith in your most poor moments, your most desperate moments, I think that's what it hit me as you were saying it earlier. It just came to mind, and finding those spots where maybe even we're just poor in spirit because we're beating ourselves up way too much because we're a perfectionist, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. And I don't know why that hit me the way it did whenever you said it, but I wanted to circle back to that because I thought it was super important.
No, that means a lot to me that you shared that perspective. I think I was looking at that verse, not necessarily for what it was, I guess, initially. Because it's like, blessed are those in the poor of spirit, they're continually giving themselves out there. But, our spirit it's not a commodity to give. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And, that perspective that you just gave just kind of highlighted, in my opinion, just what that actually means. So that's pretty awesome.
Man, I can think of so many times in my life where I didn't have that perspective on it, and whenever you pointed it out, it jumped in here, and I had to share that. That was weighing on my heart pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. Shoot, man, just going through these, again, just the fulfillment of the law, talking about murder in here, adultery, divorce, oaths, eye for an eye, even more so love for your enemies. Folks, I mean, these are all opportunities we have to truly lay into our foundation and our relationship with God. And no, we're not going out there killing people. We're not going out there and committing adultery or anything like that. But these are the big things that he's highlighting during his Sermon on the Mount, right? But what about all those small little things that we just continuously fail at that could make that big difference in our lives?
It's the little building blocks in the foundation that we build, right?
Yeah.
To stand upon, to fix the things that seem so much bigger, but honestly, in the eyes of God, probably carry a lot of the same weight, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I commend you on sharing, because, man, you shared a lot today, and you've opened up about a lot too, and I commend you because that ties right into really what the next big point is of chapter 5, which is the salt and the light, and the light that you have in you and what you just shared, man, is something that is bright. It is you're worried it came from a point of optimism or pessimism, but I think it really grasps the optimism of it, that no matter what has happened, whatever spot you see yourself in and how hard you are on yourself, you've still been able to root that in something. And though everything might look a certain way on the surface, there's winds blowing, there's rain coming, there's things changing, but below that surface there's that seed and there's that faith, and it's growing, and it's doing a lot of things, and I mean, before long, you've got this. You're laying the foundation, right? The roots and everything else, and before long, you've got this just big, beautiful thing where everything comes together, and I think both of us are at a point where we don't have that yet.
No.
And I commend you so much because you're sharing things that I probably don't have the courage as much to share, but you're doing exactly what he talks about in chapter 5 a little bit later when he talks about the salt and the light, and he talks about being a light and having that light. Somebody doesn't light the lantern and then immediately place it under cover where you can't see it, right?
Yeah.
Once you've got that fire and you've got that drive and you've got everything that you've got, and you're putting it out there in front of everyone, right? And to tie into the salt side, you're not sitting here begging for people to feel sorry for you. You're not putting it over here as some kind of proclamation that, man, I did this one thing, or I started looking at it this one way and my life completely turned around, because too much salt makes things disflavorful as well. But you're walking the balance of adding the light and adding the salt, and I think dude, you're just like a beautiful example of that today. Not to dive off in the weird side of things, but it's wonderful because, man, like, you are the salt of the earth, but what good is salt if it's lost its flavor? Even through all this, like, you've held on to that, and you haven't lost your flavor, you haven't lost your faith, and you've continued to add to things without over adding to them or overextending into some other weird spot. And in verse 14, you're the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, the lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. And if that doesn't hit the nail on the head for that conversation we just had in the Beatitudes, I really don't know what does. So I commend you for that, man.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is, everybody is that light as long as they go through and recognize that for what it is, right? And realize, regardless of where you're at, what you're going through, whatever you're dealing with, that light is still shining in however deep and dark that darkness is. And so, if any of y'all are out there are struggling with anything, or you're going through some tough battles in your life, just realize, this is that opportunity that lies right in front of you, and it's kind of up to you on what you do with it, I guess. So,
yeah, well said.
But, man, not to cut things short or anything, but I don't have much more for you, for what we got today, at least.
No, I think that's good. I think we ended up in the same.
I'm kind of tired now.
I think we ended up in the same spot where we were going to talk about salt and light and continue into verse 5. But man, I think that talks about the growth and some of the how deep this is, man, and how really involved it is. And it's not getting hung up. It's not trying to overstudy this or anything, but just the exposure and living in these examples, and I think it's cool, and I hope that y'all would continue to stay with us on this journey, and as we roll through some of this and move a little slower than what some people might find in a sermon or a YouTube video, but just like we said, we're living this.
Yeah,
like we're going through this. We're new to this in so many ways, and what you see here is what you get. we're two dudes that don't get it all right, but man, we're trying.
We sure try. That's what makes a difference at the end of the day. So,
yeah,
cool, brother. Well, I ain't got nothing else. You got anything else?
Man, the only thing I'd say is if you got something out of this, and I did, I know the story that Divin shared and some of the connections, some of the points we were able to draw out of this, I think were very, very valuable. And if you did, share the show. Send it to somebody that might get the same. If you find if you or yourself is in one of those spots where you're just like, you don't know what to do, right? You don't know where to start. You don't know, you're uncomfortable with the gospel or God or Jesus or whatever that looks like. So are we. We've been there, and we're still living in that. I'm getting a lot more comfortable the more we like truly invest into this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if somebody could benefit from that, share it with them. It might not land now, but you never know. They might be in a rough time, and go back to your message 6 weeks ago or a few months ago, and just click on this, and maybe it's a little bit of light or a little bit of optimism that they need for their situation.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's in four, man. Well, other than that, y'all get out there, lead the way, and always be prepared for whatever it is
Next in line.